only one thing which has puzzled me personally and confused a lot of the people that we work with is that 171 specifically doesn't bring into play what I'll refer to as third party or supply chain risk management, right? It doesn't encumber them with that responsibility. Now, I know if we look at the DFAR clause, 252, 204, 7012, that points to it on subclause M or something, it does, right? It actually encumbers you to make sure that flows down to those people below it. You have some obligation to enforce it. Why does 800-171 and now even CMMC at a level 3? I mean, supply chain risk management comes in at level 4. So it to me, it's illogical that I would go to this effort to ensure that you've got 110 controls, so I'm willing to give you my information, but I'm not going to require you, because that information is going to be shared or put in someone else's data center or somewhere along the line, that we're not encumbering them with that same responsibility.
Well, that's a great question. In fact, we just added in 853 Rev 5, which we just released yesterday, we have a whole new family of supply chain risk management controls.
I didn't know you released that yesterday. Congratulations.
Yeah, it was a heavy lift, but we finally got it done. But to answer your question is that the 80171 requirements, those are actually used by the federal agencies when they're entering into contracts or agreements with non-federal organizations. Now, it's true that after you have that first level instantiation of those requirements in the contract, it's really up to the contract to specify the agreement to make sure that all of the subcontractors or downstream organizations that may touch that CUI, that those are actually enforceable downstream. Now, we didn't talk anything in 171 about assessment. When you're dealing with cybersecurity, we always have two sides of the same coin. On one side, we have our requirements, our security requirements or our controls. On the other side is, how do you know that the organization met those controls or those requirements? That's the assessment side. We were completely silent in 171 about that. In fact, we developed a publication later, 171 Alpha, the alpha being the assessment side, which looks a lot like 853 Alpha, which is our security control assessment guideline. But those supply chain issues are really critical today. In fact, you're seeing coming out of the White House and the Congress, there's a lot of emphasis on supply chain security and supply chain risk management. That's why we put that new family in 853. You can imagine that, our country, we're at the forefront of new technology. We are importing and things are being built all over the world. So those software modules, the components coming in from everywhere, we're building our systems with stuff coming in from everywhere. And that supply chain is a critical part of that. And the adversaries, if they can affect that component at the lowest level of production, in other words, they can get into the hardware production, then it's pretty much game over. As you get up in the stack, moving from hardware to the firmware, to the software, the operating system, the application.
Software on chip, but you're in trouble if they're there.
Exactly. That whole stack can be breached at any level, but the lower you get in breaching the stack, if you get into the operating
more
system,
impact,
it gets more difficult. So you're going to see in 2021 and beyond a tremendous new emphasis on supply chain security. And of course, 171, the CMMC, is going to be at the heart of that discussion.
Cool. And that makes sense to me. So you knew it was a contractual obligation, so it didn't have to be specified as a requirement. Okay.